case you don't know, today is the Feast of the Holy Trinity. And last week, as you know, was the Feast of Pentecost. Both of these feasts together gave me a lot to reflect upon. Probably one reason is I had to prepare a homily for each one. But the deeper reason is that both of these feasts led me to reflect on what I will be leaving behind when I leave this world. All of us will leave some dent in this earth as we leave it. Some of the dents will be small and perhaps imperceptible. And others will be like a huge earthquake, causing chaos and consternation and great loss. The death of Christ was like that. His death rocked the world. And Jesus, last week and this week, addresses his death and what he will be leaving behind to his disciples as he leaves them. On Pentecost, we listened to the Gospel of John, and in that Gospel, John gives a very long account of a farewell speech that Jesus gave at the Last Supper, describing what he was leaving the disciples upon his death. His disciples, understandably, were shaken, afraid, not prepared to accept the brute reality of his impending death. And throughout his words at the Last Supper, he attempts to calm them, to reassure them, to give them something to cling to. And he ends with these words, "I'm going away, but I will leave you a final gift, the gift of my peace." In the Gospel today on the Feast of Holy Trinity, Jesus says to his disciples, "I have much more to tell you, but you cannot bear it now. But when he comes, the Spirit of truth, he will guide you in all truth." I find Christ's words, his gentle concern and his kindness for us and his disciples in this last statement kind of striking. He didn't want to burden the disciples who were already frightened and skittish, their saturated souls. He was afraid they couldn't handle any more. So instead, he promised the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth, and most importantly for us, the Spirit of ongoing revelation. The Spirit continues to walk with us, to teach us and guide us. The Spirit slowly guides those who follow Jesus into a fuller knowledge and comprehension of everything Jesus left unsaid. We don't need a grueling spiritual race or a frantic effort to live Jesus. We simply need to listen to the Spirit's encouragement and through his inspiration, determine our next step. Pope Francis has a line. He says, "The next thing on your calendar may be where you find God's will." It's not always a bombastic reality, but it's always found in the ordinary stuff of our lives. The gift of peace from Christ is the gift of the Holy Spirit. And as we know, the Holy Spirit brings numerous gifts: charity, joy, peace, patience, goodness, long-suffering, fidelity, mildness, and chastity. In truth, the exercise of these gifts bring peace to those who use them and utilize them, and to those around them. They may not impact the world as immediately as the evils that touch our lives, such as war and inflation, drug abuse, mass shootings, or other social evils. They're not as fickle, and they are certainly not evil like these other occurrences. The gifts of the Holy Spirit reach deep into our souls, and when put into practice, they form us into people of the Spirit, living Christ, and bringing lasting peace to those around us. We all know what it's like to have our patience tried. Everybody knows that. To be honest, it's the most common thing I hear in the confessional. I don't have patience. We know what it's like to be offended by the uncharitable. We know what it's like to cope with those who are unkind and mean-spirited. And we see the sad impact on people by the unfaithful among us. These are painful, sinful realities in our lives. The gifts of the Holy Spirit are the remedy to these sins, bringing about grace and peace. Patience disarms anger, frustration, and offense. Goodness, fidelity, and chastity and mildness bring comfort, assurance, and trust. Charity, joy, and peace bring healing and hope. These gifts of the Spirit bring us strength to follow Christ. And the ground beneath our feet becomes firm as we find our place walking in God's light. Indeed, when we are open to the Holy Spirit and find the Spirit alive in our hearts, we become people of peace. Today, I'm asking you to consider what sort of dent you will leave when you end your life here. Will it be imperceptible or more reflective of the earthquake that Christ left behind? What impact will you have as a person of faith gifted with the Holy Spirit, especially on those in your life and in our world? As you consider the gifts of the Holy Spirit given to you, how are you going to use them well? I mentioned at the beginning here that I am a member of the Oblates of St. Francis de Sales. We're a small international group of priests and brothers. With just over 400 members, we have ministries in 18 different countries. And 11 of these are in third world countries. We are in Ecuador, Uruguay, Brazil, Colombia, Haiti, Benin, Namibia, South Africa, the Ivory Coast, India, and Mexico. These people in these countries are truly third world people. They are among the poorest in the world. We have a diocese in northern Brazil which Pope Benedict called the poorest diocese in the world. These are people who struggle to find peace, comfort every single day. As you may guess, poverty and all the consequential ills of poverty plague the people to whom we minister. They cope with the lack of basic human needs: food, clean water, clothing, and decent housing. They are victims of unemployment, crime, a severe lack of education, few financial resources, and truly they live desperate lives. In our ministry in these places, we oblates focus primarily on pastoral care and education. Pastoral care involves everything from sacramental ministry to providing food, clothing, and shelter. Education provides the tools to move beyond the conditions of poverty, a poverty that traps and claims its victims and the generations that follow. Today, I bring these people to you, your brothers and sisters in the faith. I ask you to consider their need and respond in charity as generously as you can. A collection will be taken up after communion for these people. My request is rather simple. I invite you to help the oblates care for these people, the poor of whom Christ loves in a special way. I ask you to consider the gifts of the Holy Spirit given to you and compelled by Christ's word to be used for those in need. In this you will bring these poor the peace of Christ. As you determine how much you'll donate, consider how much good you will do through your generosity today. Your generosity will be part of your legacy, that dent or mark you will leave in the world as you leave it. The work we do is hard and harsh, but the lives of the people we serve is harder and harsher. These are people that I've met. These are countries that I have visited, and I've seen the men who work with them. They find an unbelievable joy in their ministry, and with the support that we earn for them through these mission appeals, they are thrilled with what they can do to help those they minister to. It's a beautiful work, and I ask you to become part of it. Thank you for your support, your prayers, and may God bless you.